Welcome everyone, the hour being 5:30 p.m. on Wednesday, July 17th, 2024. The Tooele City Council Redevelopment Agency of Tooele City are meeting in a work meeting. This meeting is being held at the Tooele City Hall Council Chambers located at 90 North Main Street in Tooele, Utah. This is also being streamed electronically on the Tooele City YouTube channel. We will start with a roll call. Councilman McCall?
Present.
Councilman Hanson?
Present.
Councilwoman Goches?
Present.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Present.
I'm Councilman Brady. I'm also present. Our third item is the mayor's report.
Thank you, Chairman and Council. I just wanted to start off by thanking publicly our city staff for the awesome job that they did on the 4th of July activities. It really was longer than a week, 7 days. It lasted a little bit longer than that this year, but all of the activities were very well planned, coordinated. We had a safe parade, which is wonderful, and every year when we go down the parade route, it's like there's more people than last year, and it just keeps growing and growing. So we appreciate that our residents enjoy the activities we had. So I just am appreciative of all the staff, and really that involves nearly every department at the city to make that happen. So we appreciate that. I wanted to update you on a meeting that was held a little over a week ago. The chief and I met with Carol Holloway with Switchpoint, and also with Deanne Christiansen with the Tooele County Housing Authority to discuss some things that are going on at the homeless shelter and how we can help each other. It was a very, very positive meeting. We are now going to be meeting on a monthly basis, and Carol graciously offered to help us with collecting maybe some additional mitigation money in the future and things that we can do that we will be eligible for some more money. So I just am appreciative that they understand their importance in the city and that how respectful they are of the citizens, and we want to make this a good experience for everyone. So I was thankful for that. Also today, I'm not a social media person, so I know this used to be Twitter, so I don't know if they really just call it X? Okay, well, whatever. Anyway, X today, there was a post by the Utah Division of Water Resources, and it says, Today's Wednesday water win goes to Tooele City for taking advantage of the Landscape Incentive Program to replace their unused grass with water-wise plants. We work with a variety of property owner types, residential, commercial, municipal, and institutional, on our lawn conversions. And they showed 4 great pictures. 2 of them are like the before and then the after. So it was really awesome to see. They came out and did the survey to make sure our grass was gone and we had water-wise plants. And I do appreciate Jamie Grandpré and all the work he went to get this done, to get our water-wise part done, and the Parks Department for getting the bids and everything out to get this project done. So we're very grateful, and it looks beautiful. So the last item that I wanted to report to you tonight is school will be starting very soon here. And there will also be, at the end of September, a very large open house for about 3 weeks. There will be a lot of traffic in that area of 400 West and 2000 North. So I wanted you to know what changes are already taking place in that area to improve safety. There will be, and really I believe this was at the request of the school district, just because of the traffic on 400 West, but we have hired 2 additional school safety crossing guards to be on 400 West, one at 1410 North and one at 2000 North. So there will be someone there helping the kiddos cross the road, at least at those 2 points. And of course, there has been one on 2000 North right in front of North Lake Elementary. That will also, or
Overlake.
It's Overlake, not North Lake. That's on Vine, or Utah Avenue. Okay, so those will all be in place. We also are getting repairs done to the roundabout on Barra Boulevard and 2000 North. It's in really disrepair. We've had a lot of construction there going through that area in the past couple of years, and the road is in bad shape. So that will also be done before this open house, so that will be a great way to get people down there and have a really a nicer road. We are still waiting for a traffic control plan, which will help us to know where parking and how all of the vehicles will travel. We're also in contact with other cities who have recently held a temple open house to get some pointers from them. Layton City has already responded and given us some really good information. And then the last thing, which will kind of wrap into this whole safety, is we have been installing some more four-way stops in Tooele. The one that was just put in on Monday was at First East and 400 North. We tried a few years ago just to get some flashing signs and see if people could stop, but it's hard to get people to comply. But we have now noticed it for 2 weeks. The stop signs are there. They are flashing. They don't flash all the time, but when you come down 400 North, there's a sensor and it will know you're coming and the lights will flash. The message boards are still there, so we're still trying to notify people to just watch out for that one. I do believe that if people will follow the law, it'll be very safe. The other four-way stop that will be put in a couple of weeks is at Vine Street and Coleman. Again, that is a crossing where the children cross to go to school, so that will be installed a couple of weeks before school starts. So we're going to get that moving very quickly so people will know to watch there. And then additionally, we are going to be putting in, we don't know yet if this is temporary or permanent, but to begin with, we will have a four-way stop at 400 West and 2000 North. That has been a big request, but as you know, there's now really 3 lanes. One turns left, one turns right, one goes straight as you're heading north on 400 West. So there's just one stop sign. It's not a signal, it's a stop sign. So we hope that, again, we'll put out message boards for people to watch for that, and that will be installed before the open house. So that is my report for tonight.
Thank you, Mayor Nguyen. We'll move on to our council members' report. We'll start with Councilman McCall.
Can you? Oh, yeah, there we go. I got it. Yeah, I attended the Arts Council last week. Also, I went to the Fridays on Vine, which was pretty good last week. Getting ready for my turn to run it. And I also have a COG meeting tomorrow night.
Sing.
No singing and no dancing, just selling candy. That's my report.
All right, Councilman Hanson.
Attended a lot of 4th of July activity like the mayor talked about. There was lots going on and a lot of fun, a lot of events. It was good to see all the people out. You're right, the parade was, holy cow, lots of people. It was cool to see everybody out. I attended planning commission meetings, and it's been like a month since we had a meeting, so I attended a couple of them and some downtown alliance meetings, but yeah, that's my report.
Thank you. Councilwoman Goches.
Like Ed and the mayor, I've attended the 4th of July events, and I really do feel like Tooele is a hometown to be proud of, and that a lot of people do come home for that homecoming, and the parade route was lined with people. It was really fun. It was wonderful to be able to attend the Miss Tooele City contest. I want to recognize Cammie for all of her efforts and the volunteers that help with that. And, the fun concerts attended after the parade. The parade was fun. The concerts with Carver Lewis and Surf City All-Stars, well done and well attended. So I just want to recognize the staff and all those who worked on that. It was really a lot of fun. Thank you. That concludes my report.
Councilwoman Manzione.
I echo the thoughts on the 4th of July. Kudos to everybody in the staff who I know volunteers time above and beyond, goes above and beyond their jobs to take care of that. It was super fun. And I had so many people reach out and tell me how awesome the fireworks were. So yay for that. They were really great, and it was fun to have them to music. And I love to see all my old friends who come home for the 4th of July. I also attended my normal things, Planning Commission, Arts Council, and RDA, and we have great things happening in Tooele City. That's all I have.
I just echo what everyone said. Attended many of the 4th of July events. We also had Lightner Poma. There was a groundbreaking. A lot of the council went to that as well. That'll be a great business for our community and bring lots of hopefully high-paying jobs to our community. That concludes my report. We'll move on to our discussion items. Our first discussion item is a discussion on Resolution 2024-57, a resolution of the City Council, the Council of Tooele City, Utah, the city, providing for the creation of a 10th and main public infrastructure district, the district, as an independent district, authorizing and approving an amended and restated governing document and an amended and restated interlocal agreement, appointing a board of trustees, authorizing other documents in connection therewith, and related matters, presented by John Perez, the Economic Development Director.
Good evening, council. I think the important thing to start off with is that it should be noted that this is just approving an amended governing document that was already approved 6 years ago. But the main purpose of the Kimballs wanting to change this is that it's changing the no property tax power without consent of property owners at that time. So if you look in that kind of summary that's included in your packet, there's really 3 pieces that it relates to. And the first one is the public improvement. So the idea that the district can finance public improvements through debt, and that property taxes can only be imposed and collected after receiving written consent from 100% of surface property owners. And then the next piece is the debt repayment sources, and that again is the same idea of the change. The district can only impose property taxes after receiving written consent from 100% of surface property owners. And then the last piece of the main 3 changes are the disclosure to the purchasers, and that's the same thing, that the property owners have to be notified and that the property taxes cannot be imposed for at least 6 months without written consent from the property owners. And the real idea of this is that it really is able to make them a taxing entity. It's no kind of skin off our back. It's no harm to us. It's able to do a better job at luring new retailers because the center will be subdivided. And then the last kind of piece it talks about is also for when eventually the residential comes as well, it'll all be broken up.
Okay, any questions or comments?
I think we just need to be clear that this is in the public infrastructure district. This isn't any other part of Tooele City. This is not increasing a tax in any residence. It's just for this specific retail development.
Okay, any other questions or comments?
I'm assuming that was part of some other agreement from before.
Yeah, we approved the public infrastructure district a while ago.
Right.
Like 6 years ago, Mayor?
6 months.
About 6 months ago.
And then this is just amending a few things in that.
Right.
Yes.
Okay, this will be on our business meeting as well, so we'll take a vote on it tonight. Okay, thanks, John.
Thank you.
We'll move on to our next discussion item, which is a discussion on civil penalties for zoning violations. This is presented by Roger Baker, the city attorney.
Thank you, Council. Historically, city ordinances have been enforced through the law enforcement with Class B misdemeanor violations, and they would be prosecuted in the courts. And that's just kind of how our country evolved in the local enforcement of city codes. As we've evolved and grown, however, it's become more and more challenging to expect law enforcement officers who are highly trained to intervene in what we might consider more typical crimes, more serious crimes, to be involved with junk cars and weeds and wood piles and smelly animal enclosures, and things of that nature, as well as violations of the zoning ordinance and violations of the legal nonconforming use ordinance. We have limited law enforcement resources, and there are most definite priorities in allocating those resources in any community. And it can be difficult to accomplish core law enforcement functions and still have to divert energies and personnel and monies to handle these outlier criminal areas. A lot of communities are moving toward civil penalties and citations instead of criminal charges. We do that in some instances already. We've migrated our parking violations from criminal a long time ago to civil. And we've done that with a number of other provisions in our code that used to be criminal. And after having met with the mayor and Chief Day and the community development director, Andrew Agard, and others, we wanted to have a conversation with you about how the city resources might best be used by transitioning some of these historic criminal, historic crimes into civil enforcement, so that law enforcement can focus on their more core traditional functions. And this is especially important today with recent developments in law enforcement, where in many areas of our country, the public has lost trust in law enforcement. I'll say it's not the case in our community. I'm very proud of our police department, and as the city's legal officer, I have a lot of confidence in our department and its leadership and its policies. However, in today's society, it can be a challenge for a uniformed, weaponed law enforcement officer to appear at the doorstep of a resident who has tall grass. And that person can feel the weight of that authority, and it's disproportionate to the problem. Yes, we need our society to respect law enforcement, but we don't need our society to be afraid of law enforcement when it comes to the maintenance of one's own properties. And Chief Day, I've done my best to summarize some things that we've talked about, but please, whatever you'd like to contribute. And so when we're looking at legal nonconforming uses, for example, if a person has a horse and they're not supposed to, that would be handled by Community Development Department as a zoning violation and not by armed police officers as a criminal matter. Other zoning violations, like you have a shed that's too big and you didn't get a building permit, or the weeds and the junk cars and the nuisances like we talked about. So I've already drafted all of the changes necessary. It was pretty easy. Once you do it for one area, you can do it for all the others. Some of them may be more serious than others in terms of the fine schedule, and so when we do bring it to you, you'll see the fines aren't the same for each type of violation. I've suggested that some of them may warrant higher fines than others, and we'll get into that in a future discussion, but tonight was an opportunity to introduce the idea to you.
I don't know if you have any questions. It's well said by our attorney, Roger, here. That was, it puts it in perspective, just the weight of our uniform on your door. And he brought up trust with the public, which we need. And we want to be guardians, not just enforcers. We want to be there to protect, too. And this could put a rift between us and private citizens dealing with their own home when it's dealing with beautification and not crimes.
So if we have your support, then we will move forward with another work meeting discussion and have draft ordinances for you to consider, but wanted to initiate the discussion tonight.
Any questions, concerns?
I like the idea. Just being on the receiving end of that over being in Twila City over my life, that's, and I think I've discussed it with Chief Day before, but yeah, I think that would be a good thing.
Mr. Chair, I've got a question.
Yeah, go ahead.
Now that these duties are moving from law enforcement and maybe into community development and code enforcement, do we need to hire additional people to be able to perform these duties?
No, you can argue the code enforcement is I have non-sworn under my department right now, but when those complaints come, who's in charge of these code enforcement? They're wearing bulletproof vests, they have uniforms similar to us, lieutenants over them. It's reflecting on police. We can, if it's possible, move employees from my department to another department. There's another option. We could go a non-sworn equivalent to a lieutenant being in the police department, but I think it would be easier to have employees move from my department to another one for sure.
Okay, thank you.
Community development.
After lengthy discussions to find out the best way to do this, we used to have one code enforcement person. And really now we have moved to 4, but they do animal control also. There will still be some code enforcement for specific items that the police will still take care of, but the majority will be these zoning and really private property problems. And I wish we didn't have any of those in the city, but we do. And our residents expect us to notify people and try to get things cleaned up. So we have had lengthy discussions with Andrew in community development, and we're just talking about the best way to do this, but we will be moving some employees around to really help and be able to use our resources wisely and more efficiently.
Mayor brings up a good point about code that deals with safety issues. That's not a problem. When there's a safety issue, such as a biting dog, obviously, animals getting loose, coming and destroying your property, that's a little bit more of a concern than a trailer or tall grass that's enclosed on a single property, all private.
I have a question. I agree. I think it sounds like a good move, but when you say the uniform kind of goes to the door, it gives a little bit of serious, like my grass is worth this. But on the flip side, if you don't have a uniform coming to the door, it's not as serious. So will we have some sort of we want to make it serious, not criminal. So will we have some sort of uniform, I guess, to make sure that there's some credibility and that, you do have to take care of the things, even if it's a zoning violation.
You bet. And I still believe part of this criminal penalty will still be there, but we want to take care of it civilly first. If you don't do it, we're going to fine you, and if you're not going to pay the fine, we're going to charge you. So both mechanisms will still be there at whatever we have to do to get compliance. Again, if it's a safety issue, especially when there's fire issue, that the fire department is involved in that. When it is a problem with something in the street, that really is Public Works. And they will also be doing part of our code enforcement to notify with the letter. We have already put together and purchased software that all these departments already have, so they can all enter their own in and everybody can see what everybody is doing. It will help make it, really, really more streamlined. Again, we know in the process, we can look it up, see somebody's already addressed that problem, and try to direct those complaints we received to the right departments. And then we also believe it has been a lot of just reactive. When we get complaints, we go see. We think that when we make these changes, there will be time to go and be proactive, that we go out and find the problems rather than waiting for the residents to notify us. So hopefully it's an improvement. We don't plan at this time to hire additional employees. Move some around, we'll see how that really goes, and if we need more employees, we're going to be back.
Awesome.
The citations continue, go to collections, liens on property, and conformance is still a problem. Maybe that's when my department does step in.
Sounds good.
I personally think this is a pretty good thing.
I think your mic's
that you're
off,
trying to
Dave.
do. Oh, sorry. I agree with them about this. My only concern, and it's a minor concern, well, not really, but I know the non-uniform sworn officers, and there's other cities it has happened where even a code enforcement person that was identified as a code enforcement person actually got attacked. So if we do move the people around like it's suggested, which I don't have a problem with, but I do feel that if at any time any of them is going to a private property, and if they just have the slightest feeling that they're not safe, they need to have the police with them. Because especially in the world we're living in today, it doesn't take too much to set people off. And they may get kind of ticked. And I would hate to have an employee go to someone's house who's kind of sort of on the edge. And that would be just what would take him over, or her. You know,
Right.
I have to throw her because women go off too.
Thank you,
Just
Councilman
saying.
McCall. Yeah, so not very long ago, most of our code enforcement functions were in the Community Development Department. And our standard operating procedure was when that department went to a property to abate it, in other words, to go on the property with a warrant and remove things, that we asked for law enforcement to come with as a protection. And I think it worked very well.
That's all I was thinking about.
Okay, good discussion. Any other discussion? Okay, we look forward to bringing this back then. Okay, thank you. We'll move on to our next discussion item. It's a discussion on the Canyon Springs annexation agreement. This is presented by Roger Baker, the city attorney.
Thank you, Council. We are considering this annexation for the second time now, and so we're bringing back to you the annexation agreement that we previously looked at with some amendments to fit our current circumstances. So the agreement addresses water rights in the same way. It addresses culinary water improvements in the same way by attaching the summary recommendations of a water engineering consulting firm. Same with sanitary sewer and stormwater. We'll also have the report executive summaries attached so that the annexation petitioner and developer will know what they have to do for the city's utilities. We've removed the trail component since the trail property is not included in the annexation property and is already under discussions between the county and UDOT. So it really doesn't involve this property owner, although I noticed I forgot to take out the trail exhibit, so I'll take out Exhibit E. We've provided that your single-family design standards, architectural standards, will apply to houses in this development. We've done that because state law does not allow us under normal subdivision circumstances to impose our architectural design standards. The exception to that is if they're contained in a development agreement. And this annexation agreement is a species of development agreement, and so when it's negotiated and the developer agrees to do that, then it's okay. We've added a provision on dwelling sizes because it's been represented to you by the petitioner that this is a kind of step-up community. It would not be a starter home community. And so to accomplish that objective, we've suggested minimum house sizes for one-story above-ground houses and for two-story above-ground houses. For the one-story above ground, we've suggested a minimum of 2,500 square feet. For the other, 3,500 square feet. That's certainly up for your discussion if you want. That was just a recommendation from the staff. We also have added, we've removed the housing authority component that was part of an obsolete discussion from 3 years ago. And in light of the fact that this development would have measurable impacts on our public safety responses, we've provided for a monetary contribution that would allow the city to hire additional law enforcement personnel and purchase equipment to incorporate this area. The parks contribution remains as it was before, but it's not. It's more general. It's not focused on any particular improvement. It's just for the use of the city and any parks improvement it desires. That's really the long and the short of it. If you have any requested revisions, I'll take those, and at the August 7th meeting, we'll be ready to present a resolution with the final agreement. I think that's our time frame, and the annexation ordinance would be the same night. So they would be approved together so that, because the ordinance relies on the resolution and vice versa. Happy to take any feedback you have.
Okay, any feedback on this? We've discussed this before, but we wanted to bring it back one more time to really solidify what we're going to vote on in the next meeting, so.
Have a comment?
Yeah, please.
You did discuss sanitary sewer and stormwater, and I assume that will include the additional repair or upgrade to 1000 North where there was a deemed problem?
I'm not really very conversant with those lengthy engineering studies. I just made a placeholder in this agreement for those studies to be incorporated. So whatever they recommend is what the developer will have to do.
Okay. And we did discuss that last time, so thank you for reminding me.
I was just reading on the public safety, it may be in the parks as well, when you receive the first contribution. So it says it's $250,000, but they making the first one half of this payment shall be a condition precedent to Tooele's approval of a First Canyon Springs final subdivision. So once the final subdivision's approved, or once it's complete, you get the...
Once it's approved. So these timing mechanisms are left over from the last
first time.
discussion from 2 or 3 years ago. They're not required. The petitioner asked for them last time because we had, I think we were dealing with $500,000 at that time, and he asked if we could break it up into 2 steps. You don't have to do that, but you can. So.
Okay. I guess I just didn't understand the second half of this payment shall be a condition precedent to Tooele City's approval of a second Canyon Springs final subdivision. They almost seem the same to me, is there?
Is it just saying though they're doing it in phases, so they're
Okay.
gonna pay
Pay
one
you
half
one
up
at a
front
time.
and then the second half when they do the.
Yeah, so the 2 payments will be conditions of the first 2 subdivision phases.
Okay, that makes
So-
sense.
I have a question about the dwelling sizes. I don't think those are the numbers I don't know that we really talked about numbers, but
Yeah, and
It's a
I don't
little-
recall a discussion, and I just put these in for you to discuss.
those are pretty
Was
big.
the 2,500 above ground, did that include the basement if there was a
Yeah, if it
basement? I
includes
wasn't
the
sure what
basement,
that meant.
Yeah, because, yeah,
If it included the basement, it might be right, or somewhere close, but if it does not,
No,
that's just 2,500 above ground?
Yes.
Plus the basement?
that's a
So that
little more
seems
than step
high.
up. Yeah,
That's a massive, those would be,
that's really big.
yeah, big houses.
I
Okay.
will confess to not having much experience with houses of this size.
What are you talking about?
I was thinking more like 1,400 or something.
For
I don't
main
know.
floor,
Yeah, for the main floor.
yeah.
don't-
I don't know.
I don't know. I'm not
think
really
the-
well versed in square footage either. I'm just thinking of like my house and other houses that I know.
I mean, the goal is just to get these move-up houses, and
Yeah.
I think this is just how we're trying to get to that, so.
It is, and I didn't really know
There's the man
how
that
much
knows.
you wanted to move up.
There's somebody who knows.
Could I just let you know what the current ordinance requirement for housing size in the city is?
Yeah.
For Ramblers, it's 1,100 square feet.
Okay.
For multi-story, it's 1,360. That's what we currently require.
None of that includes a basement, though.
Does not include the basement. That's finished floor space.
So no basement, no garage.
Yep. Typically, a house that comes into the city that we see right now is about 1,500 to 1,600 square feet finished floor area. Townhomes are about 1,200. So that's why we were looking at 2,500 square feet, because we wanted something a little bigger than what currently is commonly built throughout the city. But
That's a lot bigger.
that's where we came up with that number. At least I came up with that number. Roger was looking to me for advice on that, so. But if you think that's too big, we can
Well, typically
reduce
when you
that.
put a basement, and you guys got to answer this because I'm not a builder either, but if you put a $2,500 Rambler, $2,500 square foot Rambler there, you're going to put the same size basement below it.
Possibly. On a multi-story, you may have half a basement, but on a Rambler, you usually have a very similar basement size.
Yeah, so
So you'd have a
that- So
5,000
that
square
part just
foot home.
seems big on that particular thing. Now, if you're in the multi-story and it's different, that seems more in line. I don't know.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I agree that it seems like a lot.
they'll be big.
Yeah, I'm thinking we don't want this and we don't want this. We want this.
In between, yeah.
I don't know what this is.
Well, we did meet with the developer, and they do have some options for land lots, because not all of the lots are the same sizes, and they do have some recommendations for that. So could we include them in that discussion so that we have it defined?
And they're here tonight. They could even talk to us if you wanted to, Justin.
I'm fine with that, yeah.
The important thing, though, thank you, Andy.
Thanks.
Even if they are here, the important thing is, what do you want from this
Oh, I agree,
development?
yeah.
Absolutely.
Then they could maybe help us understand how it works. Of course, Andrew did.
And
I just
didn't-
think that 5,000 is too, 2,500
Yeah.
on one level seems like it's too big
Well,
to require that.
I didn't include anything below ground because it's above ground what you will see.
Sure.
Right.
yeah.
And you could have a small house above ground, but when you add it to the basement, it's still a pretty big house.
Sure.
But I just thought it was the above ground that's going to make your step up, not the basement so much. So that, just so you know, that's where I was coming from.
Did we mention anything about garages, like requiring a third-car garage or?
Oh, right. I didn't put that in here. I didn't know if that was important to the council.
I think we had talked about it. I don't know how important it is to everyone, but maybe you just leave it up to the developer and.
The market will tell the builder
Right.
whether the market wants 2 or 3.
Yeah, for
And I
sure.
think Howard suggested that 3 is what he was looking at building, so.
They mentioned in the last.
But if you want to
meeting.
require something,
Yeah.
it needs to be in here.
Sure.
So do you require it? Do you think we need to require a third-car garage? Because if, let's say the market changes and they don't need to build a third-car garage, they won't. So, I mean, realistically, right, you're going to build what the market is, what people are buying, so.
And if you like 3-car garages, you could, but you don't want to require the entire development to have it, you could do it on a percentage. half the houses have to have
Or
three-car
two-story
garage, that
houses.
kind of thing.
Yeah, okay. All right, any other questions for Roger? Okay, we can, Brett, if you have anything you want to add, we can,
Yeah, thanks, guys. Brett Lovell, one of the property owners and developers. 2,500 is pretty big. We've done a lot of step-up product. We're more than happy to have you guys come out and can show you some other products we've done in Riverton, even over in Lake Point. Typically for a step-up, we're going to be looking at anywhere from 1,700 to 1,800 is where we started on a single-story Rambler. That is just above grade. And then, just as Andrew said, in all fairness to him, two-story can get a little trickier because its basement size will fluctuate depending on the main floor plan. But typically, we're about 2,400 square feet to
on a
22.
two-story.
On a two-story above grade.
Above ground.
Above grade, correct, ma'am. And then with garages, our intent is to, I actually really like Roger's idea of putting a certain percentage in there. We've typically found that we would prefer to put three-car garage on all of them. Sometimes if they want to build too big of a Rambler, you just can't. You've only got so much width. So if it comes down to the buyer wanting to choose between home size or three-car garage, we don't want to be pigeonholed on that. But I even think saying 50 to 75% need to have a three-car garage. 75 might be pushing it, but at least 50 doing three-car we would totally be in favor of. So if you have any other
Okay.
questions, please let us know.
Any other questions for Brett? Okay. I mean, I would support putting some kind of requirement on a third-car garage, so I think 50%'s fair. I'm willing to go higher if you guys feel like that's more, but I get that some of the lots are different, so I think 50% is a good starting point for sure.
A minimum of 50%.
A minimum of 50, I like it. Words matter, right? Okay. And then I think the 1,700 is, for the one-story, I think that's a good, kind of what I had in mind, this middle ground that we're trying to get to, and 2,400 for the two-story. Does anyone have any other numbers that they feel strongly about?
Could I ask the developer a question?
Yeah?
Brett, did you intend to do any larger than 1,800? Is that your, did you have any intention to do larger?
Our intention is just as it said, is going to be market driven. If you go to Lake Point, Vista Meadows that we've done down there, and I forget the other name down there, I apologize. You'll see that we have some that are 1,700 square feet, and you'll see some that we actually did hit one that was 2,500 square feet on the main. So it's really just going to depend, market dependent.
Are you building like spec houses and then you sell them after? Or does a buyer come in and say, I want this lot, and then they pick a plan and?
It's, again,
Both.
just being whatever I mean, yeah, that's more of a market discussion. In the
Okay.
past, we have been more spec driven, but the
Yeah.
market's constantly changing. So, but what we are seeing more in trend now is they're not as concerned about as big of a home, but they just want nicer finishes inside. And what we've really found is they joke, just as three-car garages are a big deal, that they want horsepower stored instead of horse lots is the big joke that we keep hearing in the industry. So if you go through Lake Point, you'll see a lot of bigger garages. So.
Okay, thank you. Chris, I think, has some comments. He's on the planning commission and a real estate expert.
Thanks, Mr. Chairman. I just actually wanted to be the institutional memory for the group. Back in 1998, and Roger can correct me if I'm wrong, we did a subdivision called Cedar Crest. Most of you are familiar with 1000 north of the Cedarwood Estate subdivision, which kind of wraps around Middle Canyon Elementary School. Directly to the west of that, on 690 East, the first 30 lots of that heading north. Those are all 10,000-foot lots, so they're pretty close proximity-wise to the subject property. They're pretty close in size to the subject property. Minimum house size we were allowed to put on at that time was 1526 above grade for a Rambler. The average in there is, it's ironic, 1687. so pretty close to your 700 or 1,700 square foot. And that was designed as a move-up subdivision to go with the Cedarwood Estates subdivision, which was more of a starter subdivision directly to the east of that. So the numbers you're throwing around on that side of the table seem consistent with what we've historically seen in the market for single-story above grade. 25, put that in perspective, that's Elk Meadow Loop, Deer Hollow, that area, up the hill a little bit. So that's a couple of move-ups above that. So 16, 17, 1,800 square feet. I think the biggest house on 690 East is 1,810 above grade.
Thank you. And these are just minimums, right? I mean,
Yeah,
he
so they can be bigger.
Yeah.
Because they want.
Yeah, you could build a 2,500 if someone wants that, so.
Some of the lots were bigger in that plan.
Yeah, some of the lots are really
Yeah,
big.
they could have a bigger house. Okay, is everyone comfortable with those numbers? Do we want to adjust? So I suggest a 1,700 square foot minimum on a one-story above ground, 2,400 on a two-story above ground.
I'm good with that.
Me too.
At least 50%.
At least.
At least 50%.
Yes, 50% three-car garage.
Okay, we'll bring it back on August 7th.
Okay, any other discussion on this? Okay.
Well, before you move, let me throw this out there, because when this was brought to us before, and you can correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm 99% sure Howard said that this development was going to be like Deer Hollow. I'm almost certain he did. Because he said, why do we have upscale homes on that side of town and not on this side of town? And that's what he wanted to do, was put it on this side of town. And I'm just throwing it out there, just so you know, when you're talking about square footage, he did say that. And you can go back and look through the things, and you're here, he did say that. So 1,700, like you said, it's a start, but the ones on up that he compared this annexation to are a lot bigger than 1,700. So when he threw out that number a while ago, I'm like, oh, that's about the size of them up there. Because he said the houses was going to start at 8 to $1 million is what they was going to cost.
So I think though, since we've had this discussion, the market has changed significantly
Oh,
too,
that's-
especially the interest rates. And so that's my biggest worry, is if it's too much, it's just it'll be an upper scale neighborhood, but are we pricing out everyone? Or except those elite few, right, that are going to
And
get
again,
that,
I
so.
don't, I'm not disagreeing with that at all. I just have a feeling that that's probably because of the market and the cost of everything. That might be one of the reasons why there's not houses being built around the golf course in Overlake, because those are supposed to be houses like the ones up in Deer Hollow as well. And they're not building them, and I'm assuming it's because the market is saying no one wants to buy those houses that big. Just throwing that out there. That's, you know.
One thing I said last meeting, I think you might not have been here, and I don't know if the realtors in the room agree with me or not, but in my mind, I think of the affordable housing issue that we have, and we're building a lot of townhomes and a lot of smaller houses. But a lot of people in my neighborhood and friends of mine would like to move up from just their kind of home that they bought first, when they were younger, raise their kids in, to a little bit nicer home. And there's nowhere for them to go. It skips from this kind of starter home to the really expensive home. And in my mind, if some of those people, they're moving to places other than Tooele, and I'd like to keep them here. So if they can move to one of these kind of mid-range homes, then that frees up their starter home for somebody that's maybe a little more affordable for somebody who's starting out. I'm going to clarify, nothing's really affordable, but, more affordable in the sense of that opens up a starter home situation. So in my mind, I think we're kind of, we talk about the missing middle, and I know this is not the missing middle that we're talking about, but a little bit, we're missing some of that mid-range in my mind. But again, just my, in my experience.
Okay, Brett.
If the council would like to, I know visually sometimes a little bit easier. I mean, obviously, styles will change, everything else, but we'd be more than happy to provide some sample floor plans so you guys, again, could see what could potentially be built in there with these minimums, if that would help you guys, but I also don't want to create more work if you would not want to see those either. But if you'd like, we'd be more than happy to provide some examples. So just a suggestion.
Thank you. Okay. That will move on to our next item, which is a closed meeting. We do have a closed meeting tonight to discuss potential property acquisition. That's all we'll be discussing, right? I couldn't remember if there was something else. Okay. All right, so I will entertain a motion on moving to a closed meeting.
So moved.
Second.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We'll take it to a vote. Councilman McCall?
Aye.
Councilman Hanson?
Aye.
Councilwoman Coaches?
Aye.
Councilwoman Manzione?
Aye.
And Councilman Brady, I also vote aye. We will reconvene in the large conference room at 6:20 PM. So we'll recess and reconvene upstairs.
I am shocked that Jake even has any vacation at all.